Okay. I'm Father David Cirata. I'm the Director of the Office for Divine Worship for the Diocese of Toledo, and I'm here to talk a little bit about mostly Holy Week. As we come to the conclusion of Lent, we're going to be entering into Holy Week, and it's obviously going to be different than last year in a good way, because if you remember last year, we weren't able to have any congregation at all in our churches during Holy Week. So that was quite the challenge for most priests and deacons, I would think, and all the ministers in the church. So this year, we're at least able to, with the same restrictions that we've been abiding by since the end of May last year, with social distancing and wearing masks and practicing good hand hygiene. So we're going to see something this year probably that's a little bit more towards the middle. It won't be exactly the normal Holy Week celebrations that we're used to, but they'll look a lot more like that than the ones did last year. And last year, we were given some directives by the Vatican on how to handle it. And so it really did strip down the Holy Week celebrations. And so we'll still be you can still follow those if a parish would like to. But a parish also has the opportunity to find what works best for them that is similar to what we would normally celebrate, obviously, except for, as I said, those normal precautions that we've come to experience and gotten to know during this pandemic. So, for instance, as we come towards Palm Sunday, the beginning of Holy Week, at times parishes would they would have processions, so they would start in another part outside the church with the blessing of palms and the proclamation of the entry into Jerusalem from the gospel, and then everyone would process into the church. Obviously, that's not something that's possible at this time because of the restrictions that we're under. Processions are not something that should be occurring in our churches just because of social distancing and all the other safety precautions that we're following. So I think probably the hybrid or the next option that they'll take, which is always an option too, is what is called the Solemn Entrance. And this would be tweaked a little bit for these circumstances too. So this can take place within the church in a place where hopefully a lot of people can see to the best of their ability. Outside the sanctuary somewhere, you would do the blessing of palms, the proclamation of the gospel of the entry into Jerusalem, and then the blessing of palms would take place with people in their spots holding palms. They would have gotten their palms before Mass began, but no group would be gathering somewhere, and so everybody would be in their spots with their palms. The palms could then be blessed there, and the ministers would then move into the sanctuary in a very direct way. So that's more like what we're used to seeing, but not quite the same as we would normally experience on a Palm Sunday. But it's the opportunity still to participate and to experience, what the ceremonies of Palm Sunday, where we enter into Jesus' entry, his triumphal entry into Jerusalem. And then if we're moving along then too, we would get to, the next one would be the evening Mass of the Lord's Supper on Holy Thursday. Really the one restriction that's still in place is the washing of feet is not something that would take place this year either. Now, that is always an optional rite. It's very popular, obviously, and many parishes do that. But as you can imagine, having that occur this year would not be a very wise or prudent decision to have that contact with people. So the parishes would not have foot washing, and then because most of the Mass then on Holy Thursday is very similar to just Masses that we're celebrating all the time. The last part of it would be usually we have this procession that transfers the Eucharist from the church to some sort of altar of repose, as we would call it, somewhere else. Sometimes it's in another part of the church, sometimes it's in a chapel separate from the church. So that's one of those that parishes will really be able to use their own judgment on what happened last year. Pretty much all we were told to do was to take the Blessed Sacrament, put it back in the tabernacle, and that was it. But there was going to be no one who would be staying for any kind of adoration. But I think parishes will look at the opportunity to keep people in the main body of the church and repose the Blessed Sacrament either in the tabernacle in the church, if that's convenient and centrally located and easy for people to be able to pray at, or if they do set up a small altar of repose somewhere else in the sanctuary area. So that would probably be the option, that if a church has a Eucharistic chapel. So the tabernacle is normally not in the sanctuary. But if it is in the sanctuary, it's probably just easiest to have that adoration go back. But the use of incense and a little ceremony that accompanies what we do at the end is more appropriate this year and possible this year too. As we move on to Good Friday, even in normal times, I guess I would say, is structured slightly different than we're obviously going to see at Mass, because Mass is not celebrated. And so it tends to be kind of a little more straightforward, I think maybe even a little more reflective, we might say, in reflecting on the passion and death of our Lord. So, we have the Liturgy of the Word with the proclamation of John's Passion narrative, usually in 3 parts. Of course, that can take place. We have the Solemn Intercessions, as they're called. So these have introduction usually by a deacon or by someone else in the church, and then a closing prayer for each intercession by the priest. That makes up the Liturgy of the Word. Then the second part is the Veneration of the Cross. And that's, again, where we're going to see some restrictions this year, just the possibility of everybody coming forward to make some sort of reverence to a cross is probably not appropriate in this time of COVID. So there is, too, that the church provides within the celebration of Good Friday. This is normally if you would have such a large number of people that it would not be realistic to expect them all to come to one cross, because the veneration is to be of one cross. Then the priest would have that option of, after he would venerate it, he would invite the people to do it from their spots and take a few moments in silent veneration. So that would be the option that parishes are to take this year. So instead of everybody moving, again, it's keeping everybody in their spots where they're safely distanced, and they're able to do veneration from there. Obviously not the best situation, but it's better. Like I said, it's better than last year when nobody was there in person. So we have to, I think, be thankful for what we have, the abilities that we have this year to even gather. So there's going to be, I know that is always a very powerful time for the veneration of the cross for many people. And unfortunately, it may not have the same look and feel that it would have in years past, but we still will be able to do that, venerate the cross that our Lord offered his life for us on. And then Good Friday always concludes with Holy Communion, and so there would be nothing there that would be very different than we're probably following the same communion procedures that we've been following now for almost a year. When we get to the last one to get to in Holy Week, that is obviously the Easter Vigil. And again, this is going to be probably every parish will have to look at their facilities and their abilities with their people, but probably the idea of gathering everybody outside of the church around a large fire, that may not be the best solution this year, just because of, again, gathering people together is not something that's really encouraged at this point. So the church even too, again, has kind of the options or suggestions on how to deal with different circumstances. This would probably be in terms of inclement weather. The church recognizes that it may not be possible to build a fire outside every place in the world on Holy Saturday evening. So you can have a small fire, whether it's an alcohol fire or whether it's just some small even charcoals that are burning. That would be a possibility, and that fire would be blessed. The Easter candle would be prepared also, and the people would then still be in their spots. So you would do this in a place in the church that hopefully many people would be able to see and participate. And then the ministers would bring the Easter candle into the sanctuary, and the people would be in their spots with candles that could then be lit. That flame could be passed from person to person. So we'd still have that experience then as the Exultet is proclaimed of, everyone standing with their lit candles, kind of that idea of the vigil, waiting for Christ. We're standing there with our lights lit, waiting for him. So we can still experience that just under slightly different circumstances. And again, to the initiation of those baptism for the elect and profession of faith and reception into the church for our candidates, all that would take place in the parish with whatever requirements there were to keep people safe again. But the celebration of those Easter sacraments could very well take place, like I said, maybe with a few different precautionary measures. There's also to everyone renews their baptismal promises for sprinkling, again, kind of like at the blessing of palms on Palm Sunday. The priest may not be moving through the church blessing, sprinkling holy water over everyone, but may just do that from selected spots or from the front of the sanctuary. Those are possibilities to do that in a safe manner. And then Mass would then, after that, continue as usual, and so that would look very much like the Masses we've been celebrating there with those same kind of protocols and procedures that we've been following. And Easter Sunday itself, besides that, the renewal of baptismal promises, the celebration of Mass is very similar to what it would be on a regular Sunday. So probably most parishes now are anticipating about how they have to adjust their schedule, because we are seeing, it seems to be that we're seeing more people returning, especially as people get vaccinated. And so we do have, I think, that concern of how we can safely accommodate the number of people who may be here to worship with us on Easter Sunday. So, or throughout Holy Week itself too. So it's, again, as I said, it's an improvement over last year. We can thank God that we're at least going to be here in person to celebrate together. But we also too recognize that there's still safety precautions that probably, as our governor has said too, we want to kind of finish strong on this. So it's not the time to just act like there's nothing to be concerned about. So we're going to take those safety precautions that are necessary, but also to be able to celebrate these great mysteries of our salvation, to enter into Christ's passion, death, and resurrection in a way this year that we weren't able to do last year. And it may not be quite the same as we would do in years coming up or in years past, but ultimately it is that opportunity to come and to worship God in a safe and reverent way during this Holy Week, during these Holy Week celebrations. So pray that God will bless you abundantly during these last few days of Lent and during the Holy Week, and so that the light of the risen Christ may illumine your hearts and minds to grow more and more in the image and likeness of our Lord Jesus Christ. Thank you.